Tyler, let's just lay it out for everybody. The Patriots do enter their opener against the Bengals as the biggest underdog in this sport. But what are you most excited to see from the Patriots in this first game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those seasons where they're underdogs in a lot of these games, if not all of them. So when we're talking about what we're trying to find in these specific games, I think we need to look at specific players. And one guy in particular that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is Jalen Polk, the rookie wide receiver, second-round pick of the Patriots, had a really good spring, summer, and preseason. And he's someone that I think could be a building block for this offense going forward. And again, I think that's going to be the goal and the theme of this season, of who can be a building block going forward. And he's someone who I'm keeping an eye on. Again, the Patriots have struggled in recent years to try to develop and draft wide receivers. It feels like in the early stages, again, just of training camp and in the spring and the summer, that they do feel like they've hit on this one in particular. Now, does that mean he's a number one wide receiver? I wouldn't go so far there. I'd say, can he be a serviceable starting wide receiver in the NFL? That's what I want to see in the early stages. Anything beyond that's gravy.
All right, so I want to sprinkle in a little bit of optimism for everybody. 2 years ago, Jacoby Brissett and current offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt, when both were with the Browns, they did beat the Bengals, and Brissett actually had a pretty good game. 278 passing yards. He threw for a touchdown. He ran in a touchdown. So I look at that and think to myself, okay, anything's possible here. Do you think that Brissett and Van Pelt can tap into any of that game from 2 years ago now that they play a Bengals team that defensively looks relatively similar?
So you're telling me there's a chance. So, this is one thing that the Bengals, I think that we do have to point out here, too. On top of the Jacoby Brissett stuff, they have lost 4 of their last 5 week 1 games. So they do kind of start off slow a little bit. So maybe Jacoby Brissett and Alex Van Pelt can rekindle that magic. And that's the reason why he's the starting quarterback, right? I mean, there's a lot of conversations at the end of the summer of, can Drake May push to be QB1? And Gerard Mayo said no, because they believe that Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback that gives them the best chance to win in week 1. Of course, we all know that Drake May is going to be the starting quarterback for the future at some point, but until they feel like he is their better opportunity to win football games, it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. And I go back to something that Alex Van Pelt was talking about as well in the summer, was that just that familiarity of the offense, because they have that relationship, he and Jacoby Brissett. I think that's going to be so valuable because of all the things that are going around the quarterback, because the offensive line issues, maybe the rookie wide receivers are slow to get along. The fact that you have someone that is a little bit more stoic, that knows the system, can make the checks at the line of scrimmage like Jacoby Brissett can, I think that's why he's in there. And then who knows? Maybe they do pull off the upset or at least keep it closer than people expect.
All right, so Tyler Sullivan telling us there is a chance. But the biggest question mark remaining about this team is that offensive line. I know we all feel good about David Andrews anchoring that line, but how are you feeling about the rest?
Yeah, that one's going to be a struggle, I think, because, again, we talked a lot about this summer of finding the best 5, right? That was something that Gerard Mayo talked about and kind of coined throughout the summer. Finding the best 5 offensive linemen to put out there to give them a competitive line in week 1. Well, now we're starting to talk about, let's just try to find the healthy 5, right? Because Sidy So's dealing with an injury. Vederian Lowe's dealing with an injury. Their statuses for week 1 are in question. And before those injuries, they were part of that 5 group of being a starting offensive lineman. And now we're talking about mixing and matching a little bit more. You could have Chuks Okorafor on the left side. You could have Nick Leverett now at left guard replacing Sidy So. And so that's not necessarily ideal because they weren't in that equation to begin with. It was Vederian Lowe at starting left tackle for most of the summer in the preseason. So the fact that they don't have the guys that they feel are their best 5 to start the season, that's a little concerning, especially when you're going up against a Cincinnati team that has a pass rusher in Trey Hendrickson that had 17.5 sacks last season. So that's going to be a struggle for them.
We'll get back to the Patriots in 1 second, but just speaking about the opponent here, what do you make of this year's Bengals team? Because Joe Burrow's coming off that wrist injury, and then on top of that, Jamar Chase, he's been in a hold-in all summer, and it still hasn't been fully determined yet if he's going to be available for Sunday's game. So what do you make of this year's team?
Yeah, they're a tough team to kind of pinpoint, right? Because they have so much variance. They could finish last place in the AFC North like they did a year ago, or go back to a couple of years ago, they could be in the Super Bowl. That's the type of range this team has. And a lot of it has to surround Joe Burrow. He's someone who is supremely talented, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when he's on the field. The problem is, and as you referenced, he's struggled to be on the field at times. He's had season-ending injuries in 2 of his first 4 years in the NFL. So again, when he's on the field, he is sensational. The question is, how long can he remain on the field? And if he's there for a full 17 games, I believe this team could be a division winner and make a deep playoff run. I also peg them as one of the more overrated teams in the AFC when we were talking about it on CBS Sports.com because of that variance. They are such a highly favorited, and if you look at the betting markets, they're one of the highest teams to win the Super Bowl because of that talent. But you never know if that talent's going to be there. You talk about Joe Burrow, you talk about Jamar Chase, whether or not his contract dispute bleeds into the regular season. He's been practicing, but we don't know necessarily what that's going to look like. T. Higgins popped up on the injury report recently as well. So there's a lot of questions with this team, but there's no denying the talent.
Yeah, the talent is certainly there, and especially with that wide receiver core, and you mentioned the big names there. And, I think what makes this matchup interesting on Sunday is if both of those guys are available, it's going to be a big test for the secondary for the Patriots, and specifically Christian Gonzalez. And, I feel like we haven't talked about him enough this year because he looked so good last year before he ended his season with an injury. He was cut prematurely his rookie season. How excited should Pats fans be to see him back on the field in a regular season game?
Yeah, he's someone, again, like I talked about earlier, when we're trying to find building blocks for the future, cornerstones of your franchise, the blue bloods, and those typically come in the first round. And that's exactly where the Patriots found Christian Gonzalez a couple of years ago, drafting him in the first round. And again, as you mentioned, small sample size last year, but he has the tools and the look and everything that is a number 1 corner in the NFL. So to me, he's a fascinating player to watch, not just for this game, because of course the matchup between him and Jamar Chase or even T. Higgins, whoever he's lined up against, is going to be fascinating. But he's going to be tested a lot to start this year. You look at that first month, you talk about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, DK Metcalf in week 2. You have Garrett Wilson, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, all within the first month. That's a gauntlet for a young cornerback and someone who doesn't have a lot of playing experience. He only played about a month last season before going down. If he comes out the other end of that first month and is really holding his own, that's an early indication to say the Patriots may have their anchor on defense in the secondary.
All right, since we are 2 days out here from the season opener, I can ask you this question with the record still being 0-0. Tyler, what would constitute a successful season for the Patriots in your mind?
Yeah, see, I think that I might have tipped my hand earlier. You have to look at it, I think, individual. I don't think the record is going to be something that we're going to be hanging our hats on. They have the lowest win total in the NFL going into the season. The markets are telling you that they don't expect them to be a good football team record-wise. The thing that the Patriots should be focusing on right now are the individuals. And it's such a team sport, so it seems almost, the opposite of what you should be saying. But overall, if Gerard Mayo shows you that he is a capable first-year head coach, that's a win. If Drake May, whenever he comes in, whether it's after the first month of the season, maybe the final month of the season after the bye in week 14, if he shows some flashes, that's an encouraging sign going into 2025 that you found your quarterback of the future. I mentioned Jalen Polk. If he pops in year 1, he's someone that you can get excited about going into year 2 in 2025. Pop Douglas is another one. Christian Gonzalez is another one. Those individual players to see who is going to be part of this new core for Gerard Mayo and Elliott Wolf. Those are the storylines that I'm going to be following this season because I think that is what's really going to be the key indicator to help them take off in 2025 and 2026.
Well, we got quite the appetizer last night with Chiefs and Ravens. What a start to the season. Can't wait to see the Patriots in action against the Bengals. Tyler Sullivan, he will be with us all season long. You can also catch his writing on CBSSports.com. Tyler, as always, appreciate the time. All right, be sure to tune in to WBZ on Sunday. Patriots game day gets started at 11:30, followed by Pats and Bengals. They kick off at 1, and then the 5th quarter after the game.